Everybody, welcome back to the channel. I am in the car, but it's just kind of a weird situation. So last week was just kind of a weird week in general. We had a bunch of stuff going on over the weekend. We had stuff going on leading up through Friday, and then like one sickness on one side of the crew became sickness on the other side of the crew. So like things just got jumbled and messed up. But anyway, long story short, last week I did see a second film, and I completely forgot that I had seen the film. I was planning on doing the review, but then we ended up doing a review together immediately afterwards. So without further ado, the film I saw before The Beekeeper last week was I.S.S. So I figured I would give you guys a quick 5-minute review here on I.S.S. The suspense thriller drama that just released this last week. Overall, 1 through 10, I give the film probably about a 6 overall. It's relatively enjoyable, but it's not necessarily my favorite film of this year or of the last 2 years. I am a big fan of thrillers and psychological stuff like that, things that get your heart pumping and things. The premise of I.S.S. was extremely interesting for me, so I was actually really looking forward to the film coming out. Visually, the graphics, the fact that they get you to believe that they're in zero gravity the entire film is highly impressive, so I have to give kudos there. The tension is pretty good for the most part. The acting is alright. I mean, there's 6 people in the entire film, and they play it fairly well. The story has a lot of interesting aspects to it. There's different things that are going on back and forth. Things that are kind of left up in the air usually get answered by the end, and I think that the ending is a relatively well put together ending. So overall, 6 out of 10. It's just one of those things where this film had a lot of potential, and it didn't necessarily meet every little bit and aspect of the potential I think that it should have. The score is meh, the acting can be kind of meh, and overall I think that there are things that were left on the table at the end of the film. So yeah, 6 out of 10. Do I recommend seeing it in theaters? No, I don't think that you get necessarily the greatest benefit boost to going to the theater to see it, but at the same time, if you have friends and stuff like that, it could be an interesting watch with your friends. If it's on streaming or something like that, I'd recommend, if it's on sale, renting it. I don't know if paying the full price is necessarily going to be worth it when you're going on streaming. So if it's for free, it's on TV, or it's a relatively decent deal on renting, it's not worth watching. It's just, it's not going to be the best film of the year, I hope. So I'll just go ahead, go into spoilers. Spoilers. So if you've seen the trailer for the film, you know that the American side, the American astronauts are told that there's war on the ground, and the U.S. government is telling them that they need to take action and they need to take over the I.S.S. The astronauts are left to assume that because they received those orders, the cosmonauts, the Russian scientists, have also received the exact same orders. So that's what causes a lot of the tension, is that they don't speak the same language, roughly, and they're being relatively secretive, and the Russians are being awful quiet, and the Americans are being awful quiet, but they're being quiet in a similar way, so you don't know if they've been given the same orders. That tension is really, really quickly killed, because probably within 5 minutes of that scene happening, it is revealed 100% the Russians straight up themselves just say, we got these orders, we're going to take the space station, and we're going to do it violently. The Americans kind of come off as the pushover good guys, except for one of the astronauts. So 2 of the 3 astronauts on the American side are not for taking the space station at all. They think that, hey, there's a war going on, there needs to be some agreement come down, and we need to keep it peaceful up here because we are scientists. We are not members of the military. This is not a military target. But one of the people in the American group is like, well, this is actually a prime military target. We're in space. We have the ability to observe things, and we have these scientific things going on up here that could be helpful down on Earth. The Russians, one of them is super duper murder happy. One of them is kind of meh about the whole killing people thing, and one of them is 100% like, I don't want to kill the Americans at all. So the tension that was in the trailer is like evaporated almost immediately after the bombs start dropping on Earth. The visuals of the bombs dropping and stuff on Earth is pretty impressive. A lot of the visuals in this film are really, really good. The acting can be meh. So overall, the film kind of flounders a little bit. The fact that the tension immediately just evaporates, and it goes from, is this happening? Are we thinking it? Is it kind of like a mentality thing? To where us as the audience are like, no, this is 100% what's happening. We know that this is actually happening. And we're left to believe that the Americans are like, no. Because it follows two American characters like, no, totally not. No. The death outside was an accident. We just need to be more careful. You know? So it's just one of those things where the tension immediately leaves the room. We as the audience know exactly what's going on within 5 minutes. And it feels like forced naivety as a result on our main character who we're following. The only really good tension scene is between the Russian and the two Americans at the very end of the film. Because we know that the male American who's left behind is violent. He wants to take the I.S.S. He sees that there only being one Russian is a quick victory kind of thing, so he really wants to kill him off just so that they have the I.S.S. to themselves. So the tension's there. It's just one of those things where even after the tension's kind of paid off, you're like, okay, cool. And then the ending is also one of those things where one of the Russians and one of the Americans just decides to leave the I.S.S. even though they have months of supplies left in the air, and the war literally just started like within the last week, and they haven't been able to get in contact with anybody, and they haven't been able to get a hold of where they're going to land, and there's not really much clear idea on where they want to be, because the only people who can recover them are Russians or Americans, and they are at war with each other, and you have one Russian and you have one American, so it's like, where are we going to end up? And then they leave in the capsule, even though they have months of oxygen, food, and resources. Like, there's enough resources in the I.S.S. right now that they could be up there for 6 months before, so there could be like an agreement reached where it's like, hey, the scientists, they're going to land, they go their separate ways, we have an agreement kind of thing. Instead, they just decide to leave at least 6 months to a year's worth of supplies on the I.S.S. and just abandon it. So it's kind of an odd ending. Overall, the film had enjoyable parts to it. That's why it's above a 5. But at the same time, it's kind of mediocre and it kind of meddles a bit. It's just one of those things where it had such great potential and it didn't reach that potential, so it's highly disappointing. But yeah, those are my thoughts. If you went and saw I.S.S., let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Otherwise, like this video and let us know how we're doing. Otherwise, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. We go to new movies at least once a week, and we get that new review to you guys every Saturday. Otherwise, we like to watch bad movies and rewrite them, old movies, and talk about them. And we just like talking about movie topics and things like that. In general, every Wednesday we drop a different kind of show studio thing that we do. So if that interests you, you'd probably like this channel. Consider subscribing. Otherwise, we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.